Welcome to the Rebuild Procurement podcast, where we dive deep into topics to keep procurement people up to date and ahead of their peers. Today is our 2025 predictions episode. We have a special guest. We'll let you know after this. I'm Tom Finn, bringing 15 years on the client side procurement, finance, category management experience in large and small cap orgs.
And I'm Alan Vika, procurement geek on the sell side of our street, and I've assembled a team of superhuman procurement professionals doing managed services at a little company we call Summit.
And today, helping us go through, or probably pushing us a little further here, we have a special guest. He's a seasoned sourcing professional. He's got a bunch of experience, does the restructuring. If people would only listen to him about some of his data analytics, they might be in business today. He's one of the most interesting people I've met, especially probably over the past, 5 years, Paul Odell-Scott. So Paul joined us here for predictions. How's it going?
Good, great. Good to be on here. Thanks for having me. That's quite the introduction. So thanks, Tom. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me. I watched all of your episodes, so happy to have you guys.
Yeah, good to have a guest on. I mean, Tom, I think we were doing well, but we could always augment a bit. It's good to have some fresh ideas on the pod.
Yeah, and this is the perfect episode to do so. Thinking about what's going to be exciting, popular, and important in 2025. So basically, just to lay out this episode, we did our end of year review, which we didn't really have predictions for. We kind of went through it last time, and this go around, we're gonna set some lines in the sand and just kind of we'll measure ourselves on the back end here. Might forget about it the entire year while we're either wrong or right, but then get our flowers or whatever it may be at the end of the year. So I think we have 10 topics here, Alan?
10. Yeah, we only brought 9 to the end of last year, but in talking through it, we decided let's add a 10th. You can't finish with 9, right? Got to have 10. So we rounded it out to 10, and we added the most interesting financial metric and a prediction of where that metric would be for 2025. So I think that'll be a good one.
We like to be odd, but not when it comes to numbering things.
We're odd enough.
So, all right, Alan, I'll let you kick this one. Actually, never mind. What am I doing? We have a guest. We let our guest go first. But on this first one here, Paul, we have best procurement winner of 2025. Who do you think it'll be?
Well, pressure's on. But so this one, for the best procurement winner, I had the first major fast food chain to completely remove seed oils and replace them with animal fats or clean oils.
Oh my gosh.
You guys were talking about that yesterday.
It's
and I
way
was
more simplistic than yours.
So I think that there's a huge market just waiting to be unleashed if a fast food chain is to do this. And if any fast food chain, major fast food chain does this, it will be just massive for them.
Paul is bringing it. I love that. That's a good way to get us kicked off. Have you read anything, Paul? Is anybody making noise about doing it?
Not that I've heard. I know there's some talks about it. I know there's some other restaurant chains like True Food Kitchen. It's one that completely removes seed oils. I don't think they've ever actually had seed oils, but I do think that that's kind of a more expensive restaurant. The more fast food, cheaper restaurants that can do that can bring healthy lifestyle to American public will be just phenomenal.
That's great. And the seed oils, the issue there is we're maladapted from a genetic perspective to process those oils because they're not something that occurs naturally. They have to be pressed and expelled and all that other sort of stuff, heated, treated. Chemistry is done to it, and I think that the issue with the seed oils is inflammation, right? The big
Correct.
I. It's just all body inflammation. So think about coronary arteries. Think about neurons in the brain. Everything gets the little touch of inflammation that leads to unhealthy outcomes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do think people are starting to become just generally more health conscious with that kind of stuff. I do feel like McDonald's a few years ago, weren't they pushing the fact that they were like going solely on canola too? I don't know if it's like the least worst.
Yes. Well, you want to talk
Maybe that's
about
like
I don't know,
15
canola
years
is
ago.
rough.
You want to talk about
Canola's
procurement
rough. Okay.
blunders. They used to have beef tallow, of course.
Yeah, they
and
used to
that's
have
when
tallow.
That was the big
That's
thing,
through
right?
the 70s. Yeah, that's why their fries were so good. And then the Union of Concerned Scientists, can't make this up, basically petitioned them and said, "You're killing people," because that we had the heart theory, the theory that animal fats led to clogged arteries. So they petitioned McDonald's to remove the beef tallow, and so then they put in hydrogenated vegetable oils, and then we killed more people. And then guess who took them back to court and sued them again? Union of Concerned Scientists, because their idea was wrong. So then now they're at the healthy canola oil.
Yeah. The
So,
hypotheticals, battling hypotheticals, because it's not necessarily all rooted in true science. It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
All
All right, that's a good
Great
one. Paul.
one.
Way to kick
Great
us off.
start.
Thank you.
Alan, what do you got? Biggest procurement winner,
All right.
2025.
I'm going to say that the biggest procurement winner. I think that we're going to have a year of posturing and some political posturing, some hard-headed negotiations. So I'm going to predict that as we start to ramp up some of the U.S. chip manufacturing, U.S. chip manufacturers are going to be the biggest procurement winner. They're going to be bought globally, and the people who are running those chip manufacturers, like we talked about at the end of last year, NVIDIA and the like, they're building up their procurement function. So I think that U.S. chip manufacturing as an industry is going to be the biggest procurement winner.
I like that. I think chips are just everyone's kind of aware of it. Chips are cutting edge. It's AI, it's blockchain. You need that more computing power, the depth of it. So I like that.
Do you think Intel's going to do something, or is this a TMC US?
Yeah, I think Intel, I think that they're going to get their act together, but that might take a couple of years. I don't know if we'll see that in 2025, but I do think this whole push is going to be going on for the next couple decades. We're going to be slowly ramping up the Cold War with China, withdrawing some of the things that we purchase from them or perhaps too close to them, and I think this is going to be one of those.
Yeah. I'm interested to watch in TSMC. I meant to say not TMC. The for me, kind of I think we're just hanging out a little too often here, Alan. So we gotta probably spend more time apart. But similar to the trade and the pushing and the rhetoric, I think just rest of Asia is gonna just like manhandle 2025. That could still be via Chinese companies just doing business elsewhere. But I do think a lot of things, just from a geographical standpoint, they'll disperse. Like there is talk of like India, which could totally, take things away. But I think it'll be a lot of more rest of Asia that will come out as a 2025 procurement winner, meaning a lot of other companies, especially US, European, will be purchasing from the Vietnams and countries, things of that nature. So,
do you have any specific industries that you think would do better or worse in that?
Just generally, I think manufacturing is going to, folks will set up shop. A lot of U.S. companies, they've moved to Asia, giving the industrial, nature of China. And I just think that just probably over the past 2 to 3 years, some of it's already happened. Probably since the previous Trump administration, kind of things have slowly moved. And I think that a lot of them have already tested the waters and will just invest more in other Asia.
Yeah, cool.
Very cool.
All right, so that's one. Now we're number 2, the biggest procurement loser. How about Alan? You're up first.
Okay, I like it. Thank you. All right, this is one that I've certainly seen a lot across the course of the last year. I think this trend is going to continue into 2025. I've seen a lot of BPO firms that do procurement, BPO, business process outsourcing, push where they were doing onshore and maybe nearshore are pushing more to nearshore and offshore for procurement resources. So think about the Accentures of the world and the Infosys of the world, some of the biggest BPO providers who also do procurement. They're pushing that stuff offshore. And what that means is a little bit less job security in North America for procurement talent. I've got a bunch of friends, a bunch of network colleagues who've been looking for jobs for months, in some cases years. And the sense that I'm getting from them is that the job market is pretty stale, or at least stale at the price levels kind of that a typical 40, 50-year-old professional would be commanding a few years ago. Nowadays, they're not finding any roles that pay that sort of salary because a lot of that work has been pushed offshore. And I think this is largely being driven by the tech sector. You remember when Elon came in and basically wiped out 75% of Twitter's staff and didn't feel anything on the revenue side, or not much on the revenue side. There's all the rest of the tech industry is following suit and trying to figure out how much they can cut and how much they can drive work offshore. So I think this is just going to lead to the biggest procurement loser being onshore business process outsourcing and consequently onshore procurement talent.
Love that. So you think it's going to go just that'll move around the world with the hours not mattering. Folks will work at night.
Yep, that's right. And they work the owl shift in India, for instance. They'll work the late shift.
Philippines.
Right. Yep. And even nearshore stuff, Costa Rica, things in Mexico. Yeah. It's South and Central America. So it's gonna continue to increase, I believe.
I definitely see that trend happening already. So
yeah, it's a great pick. Paul, where are you at?
Yeah.
Biggest procurement loser 2025.
So mine, I was thinking of it from procurement out. So I was thinking SaaS companies, kind of, Alan, what you were saying with Twitter, being able to show, hey, we can cut, so much of our resources. I know companies personally have been cutting as much SaaS as they can. Big names like Salesforce, they try to sell you everything under the boat, and then now they're tacking on AI. I think AI will also kind of cannibalize some of that SaaS, where people can now start making, at-home apps within the company a lot easier, a lot cheaper, much more customized, and not so difficult anymore. I think that will continue to happen. And I think that more and more companies are going to be looking at where there's potential double spend on, project management platforms across the company, or, chat. You have Slack, you have Google, you have Teams. Do you really need all of those necessarily, or can you just live with one and start cutting those out? Because I think there's going to be a lot of review of those expenses within a lot of the companies this year, and that's kind of the most obvious is looking for those types of double spends. And so SaaS to me was the procurement loser on this end.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Starting in like 2020, just through COVID, a lot of the SaaS providers, they didn't really raise rates because they were trying to, keep themselves just afloat generally.
Yeah.
And in what I've seen this year is everyone's starting to increase their rates. So therefore becoming more expensive, while what you're saying, Paul, is happening too, where folks are like, well, I don't even know if I need you.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Exactly.
Yeah, what I heard is that most companies don't use anywhere near the full range of functionality in most SaaS tools. They're looking for 3 to 5 of the features that are in the tool set that the SaaS provider brings, and so they could just build those with agents, AI agents nowadays. That's pretty cool. Tom, you've got some experience with that. You've done a little bit of coding, right? And amazing what can be done.
It's amazing what can be done. Yeah, we'll have to do a run through of some of the. I've been playing with a lot of these different AI tools and kind of type it out and it codes for you. You guys still got to be smart and you still got to think through things, but yeah, it's unbelievable the amount of time saved.
It's incredible.
So yeah, I'm a big buyer of the AI being the real thing. For me, the American manufacturer is my 2025 loser, and I don't know if this will be a forever thing, but I think 2025 is going to hurt. I think 2025 will hurt for the American manufacturer because of what I was saying about the moving from China to other countries. I think a lot of like raw materials, a lot of things come through China as a starting point. There's less regulations on environmental things of that nature. So a lot of those starting points, I mean, rare earths are one that a lot of folks talk about. It's a dirty process, not only to get them out of the ground, but then to further process them before they go into things. Those end up being raw materials for American manufacturing. So I think a lot of the those raw materials, whether folks could even buy them, We'll see how that plays out, but I think that'll lead to at least 9 months, 10 months of hurt. That'll bring us through to 2026. So that's my 2025. Who's it going to hurt? U.S. manufacturing.
Yep. Yeah. Another good one. I like how you paint a little bit of a positive picture, maybe on the horizon, but not soon enough.
Yeah. Well, it's just a matter of, it takes folks time to move and find alternative sourcing, just like anybody that's doing sourcing on this call. Like, you don't switch from today to tomorrow with someone you're like sole sourced on. So if you only have 2% and then 98%, you can't make that 2% guy into some, into your 100. So it takes time to transition, and I don't think folks have really moved fast enough. So, all right, that's the biggest loser. Now we're going to business winner. Paul, why don't you take us the biggest business winner 2025?
All right. So for my biggest business winner, I had MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy.
The Michael Saylor guy? Oh,
Michael Saylor. Oh, yeah, all the way. Yeah, he's a rocket scientist. And he's
Saylor.
He's figured it out, I think. So, yeah, and this kind of ties in with another one later on. But, what he's doing is just financial engineering to the max, including, ballistic models on, he's a rocket scientist, so he understands physics. And so he's applied that to the way that Bitcoin and the rest of the global economy works. And he's taking full advantage of that. And he's found, a unique arbitrage opportunity if all plays out right, which I think he's playing it the right way. In my book, on the way that he's financially engineering his company for the future, and he's really forward looking. So I think that this year will be a good year for MicroStrategy.
What are the beyond leveraging? I want to say over leveraging, but beyond leveraging his entire company, is he doing something else beyond that?
Well, he's basically selling.
Let's just give the background of them. He's like, and then just check me where I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
So he has a company. They used to make software. He kind of took that income stream, invested into Bitcoin, and now essentially he's turned his that recurring revenue into an investment engine for Bitcoin. And to buy more Bitcoin, he's leveraged the company further by selling shares in MicroStrategy, right? So he's kind of like leveraged upon leveraged to buy more Bitcoin.
That's semi-accurate. So the leveraging isn't like a debt leverage necessarily. There is a portion of it that is debt leveraged, where he's selling convertible bonds that are that convert shares to. This could be like a whole thing right here, but
maybe it will be.
Essentially, what he's doing is he's selling more shares into the market at a higher price than the amount of Bitcoin that they own. So there's his net asset value of the Bitcoin in US dollars. When it's above about 2 times that, when his market cap is about above 2 times that, he will sell additional shares. So they're creating shares out of thin air, selling them, taking the US dollars for that, and then buying Bitcoin. From there, they have a way that they're doing this so that it's not actually over leveraging the company. They typically keep it at about a 25%. Because then, so backing up, they will sell the convertible bonds on top of that as well. But they only sell that when the price of Bitcoin has gone high enough to where they feel safe enough to be able to leverage up to 25% of that value of the Bitcoin. They can't really ever get called on those bonds because they're not backed by the Bitcoin. They're backed. They're literally zero coupon. They're the cheapest bonds you can buy out there. You're making no interest on them. You're betting that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up, and you can then convert into the shares by the time they hit. I forget what the percentage is up. Each note is different, but I think they're all about 60%. We can definitely fact check me on that. But once it reaches 60% above the par
we
value,
don't fact check your Paul.
Then those who bought the bonds can convert into shares. But half the time, they don't necessarily want to even convert at that time yet, because they're there just for the bond. These are corporate bond buyers. They're institutional. Mm-hmm. A lot of insurance companies are going to start doing this because it actually is a much better investment for them to buy these Bitcoin backed bonds because they can't buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's the best performing asset in the world. And so that's kind of the game, but I could go on and on about that, but he's not really, there's a big misconception about the way he's leveraging the company or over leveraging it. And that's why I think he's so smart, is that he's actually not, but what he's doing is he's diluting the share base by selling all these new shares into the market, but they do it at a specific rate to where the amount of Bitcoin that they're buying is actually, each share, even though you're getting diluted in the US dollar share base, you're actually, each share will always be making more and more Bitcoin. So if you care about Bitcoin, this is the thing to buy. It's better than an ETF because it's actually going up in value in Bitcoin terms. And that in the long run is like a Bitcoin reinvesting machine. You know, you're getting dividends basically in Bitcoin just by holding the shares.
Yeah. And it's a bit of arbitrage, I guess, given that they can't purchase Bitcoin. There's an arbitrage if they can't purchase the Bitcoin,
right?
Then for the investment companies,
exactly. So then they can actually they can buy these bonds, which are the best performing bonds in the universe, as Michael Saylor will tell you.
Yeah, just more financial vehicles for people to use Bitcoin as a backbone on this.
It's very difficult to understand, but once you get into it, it's very interesting.
And he's an interesting character. Like if he comes out with an hour-long presentation. He's invited to keynote a bunch of places. He like once a month, once every 6 weeks, he does an hour-long presentation, and they're all new and unique. Yeah. He comes up with a different angle to look at Bitcoin to try to understand philosophically what is this, and it's quite a fascinating thing he's doing, quite a service he's doing for the crypto industry.
All right. So the biggest winner for business 2025, and then Alan, what do you have?
Yeah, I've got the nuclear power industry. So we saw it here. Like I started to see the first rumblings here in our home state, our home Commonwealth, Tom, in Pennsylvania, where the infamous 3 Mile Island was purchased by Microsoft and recommissioned, or it's in the process of being recommissioned. AI and all the chipsets we were talking about, all the machines that you need to run to power the AI engines, they're power hungry, and the U.S. has an absolute dearth of power currently. So they're trying to find it anywhere they can get it. And I think there's going to be a big, as we move into the new political cycle with deregulation coming, we're going to start to see deregulation of the nuclear power industry and start to see some building of some more plants, which is fantastic. I think it's good for those who are super concerned about climate change. I think it's great for those who are concerned about staying competitive, globally competitive in the AI industry. So this is going to be kind of a renaissance. I have a PhD in nuclear chemistry, of all things. So I've been waiting for this day patiently since I graduated in 1996 with that degree. It's fun to see it happening.
You said it was unlimited offers when you exited too, right? With that PhD? Everyone was all nuclear all the time?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I had zilch. I had nothing. So I had to go into management consulting. You know, it was the only thing out there hiring.
Yeah. But now it's, I mean, now, like, if you have it, I'm sure if you wanted to ever dip your toe back into it, Alan, they're probably just looking for folks with that kind of background.
That would be fun. I had a time of my life studying that. It was great. It's a fascinating field, and so I'm excited for the young kids coming up.
I think it's very cool. Yeah, a lot of needs given the crypto mining, but seemingly more even AI on a go forward for energy. For me, I chose large tech. So I think these guys are going to end up getting more streamlined and more efficient. And for every dollar they're making is going to be a higher margin. I just imagine that they're going to use this whole AI for multiple reasons. I think one is going to be less hiring, but also they're going to be capturing more revenue. So I just think in general, large tech is going to still, I mean, they're about like 20% of the S&P. I don't know if that percentage will necessarily go up, but I do think that they're that the output of like income will be going up in 2025. So
yeah, that dovetails nicely with my biggest procurement loser. That
say big tech, say big tech, Alan.
Yeah,
go biggest procurement loser 2025.
Yeah, it's good. Well, they're the ones who are pushing for all these productivity gains, and they're pushing a lot of stuff offshore. So that, yeah, I agree with you. They're going to be a business winner in 2020.
Okay. Well, what about loser 2025? Alan, hop right into
Okay,
it.
the biggest business loser. I had it was difficult. I had a couple of answers. Like, what I wanted to say was the Beyond Meat crowd. All those guys coming up with synthetic foods. I think they've largely been suspect for all the reasons that Paul talked about earlier, with seed oils and kind of fake food, frankenfood. And I think with RFK coming in, stepping into HHS and starting to take a look at this sort of thing, I think that we're really going to say, hey, this stuff is bad news. Run away. But I had as a close second, hope I'm not stealing anybody's thunder, here in Pittsburgh, I think maybe everybody just saw the U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel merger was scuttled, was basically banned by the Biden administration. And I think that's going to be bad for domestic steel, just because it's already in the doldrums. And anytime you have this sort of uncertainty, is it on? Is it off? What are we going to do? Everybody just freezes. And the business is probably already pretty cold right now, and it's just going to get colder over the coming year.
Yeah, because the perception there is what the administration is doing is saying, oh, we want to protect steel in the U.S. And they're like, we can't make $1. So,
right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, great. What about you, Paul? What do you got? Biggest procurement or biggest business loser of 2025?
I had consumer staples. I think the environment that I suspect we are going to go through for 2025, there will be some difficult times for just the general consumer staples industry.
Now you're not talking about just connecting paper.
Staples.
You're talking about
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they lost. They've been losing for years.
The key staples that people buy, household staples. It still sounds like the staples that you buy, household staples.
No, but just to elaborate, are you talking like CPG? Are you talking
consumer packaged goods? I'm talking toilet paper, paper towels. The general stuff that you need to buy, soaps. Like the P&Gs of the world. I think that it's just going to be not as profitable this year, just for that industry.
And you think because of generics coming on, or
it's a little bit more nuanced than that from the finance end. But typically, I suspect that there will be some sort of credit liquidity event, and consumer staples don't do well in that because people can't afford consumer staples at that time. I do think it's going to be short-lived, but I do foresee something.
Headwinds 2025. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Good. For me, I have employees not using AI will be the biggest loser in 2025. If you're not using AI, just go to chatgpt.com, go to Gemini, GEMINI.google.com, start playing around with those things. Like, your search life at a minimum will change. Your ability to put things together, like process docs, all of these things, is going to change, like at the stroke of a keyboard. So if you're not doing that and you're taking time on things that others just seem to be knocking out of the park and doing way better than you, you are losing in 2025. So I'm talking to you, whoever's out there listening to this is not doing it. You're going to lose unless you go on one of those two websites and start using it.
Jump in the water.
2025.
Tom's the AI man.
Yeah, you out there may be losing, so fix that. Win in 2025.
Be a winner. Don't be a business loser.
Be a winner. You can still lose, even with using it, but you'll lose worse if you're not. All right, we're gonna go back to our guest first here on the next one. I feel like both you guys sort of, you love these ones. The most contrarian belief 2025. What do you got, Paul?
Yes, so this one kind of ties into my last one. But so just to key it up, the current market sentiment for the federal funds is that we will have 1.5 cuts of the interest rate in 2025. For those who don't know, the Federal Reserve, they control the money supply. So they raise rates to tighten the supply and they lower rates to increase the supply. They have previously been on a big spree of increasing the rates with a few cuts in 2024. They're now saying, maybe we won't be cutting. I suspect that there will be an emergency rate cut at some point in 2025, and that's an unscheduled meeting of the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates because of some sort of liquidity crisis within the banking system, where more money needs to be injected right away to increase liquidity. So that's a very contrarian belief. I believe because it's an emergency rate cut. I'm not saying they're going to cut rates. They're going to cut rates. But it's just I think that they're planning for that soft landing, and I think they think they're getting there with the belief that they're going to cut less this year. My models are saying very different, and I'm worried that they're being a little too naive on this.
All right, emergency rate cuts save some banks.
Exactly.
Maybe not as big as 2008-9, or you think in magnitude? What do you think?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because you don't know exactly what the credit and the derivatives are like within these banks or the funds that are trading these. So it's very hard to see deeper into exactly what's going to be happening. But the yield rate, the yield curve, which is based on it's kind of a drawn out picture of you look at the nearest expiring CDs, we'll call them. You go to your bank, you buy a 3-month CD. Recently, you've been able to get a higher rate on a 3-month CD than a 30-month your term loan, and so that's called an inversion. We have just been inverted for about 3 years, I believe, and that is very not the greatest for the market. And so we're starting to actually flatten back out. And the last time I actually posted it on my Twitter on Sunday, took a screenshot of, I think it was August 17th, 2007. We're almost at the exact same flatness of the rate curve after a very brief inversion. We've been inverted for a long time. We're flattening back out. And I don't know what that looks like, but I mean, they have the gunpowder ready to be able to just cut interest rates as much as they need to, inject liquidity. But I don't know what that actually is going to look like. I hope it's not as bad as 2008, 2009, but you never know. But I expect some sort of brief deflationary credit issue very soon.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Good call. Alan, what do you got? Mr. Contrarian. What's your contrarian belief 2025?
I'm just doubling down on where I've been contrary before. It reminds me of the great New Yorker cartoon where they showed this old guy and they're like, yeah, his wife's saying about him, yeah, he started out lactose intolerant, now he's intolerant of everything. I'm contrarian about everything, but I'm doubling down on Doge. I'm going to say that it's full of noise and bluster, but its impact will be small. I think, you look at it, they kind of got out of the gates with this first big bill that they helped to slim down and remove some of the pork out of the bill. But in the end, I think most of the pork was still in the bill. And those numbers that when we spoke about it last year in December, those numbers that are tiny, that I think their impact will be, I think those are gonna hold true. We're gonna hear a lot about them. There's gonna be a lot of fighting, a lot of noise, a lot of bluster, but in the end, impact is small.
Love that. For me, I'm not sure if this one's contrarian or not, but so there's been a lot of talk about bringing things back to the U.S., being more insular ourselves, and essentially deglobalization. I think in 2025 there'll be increased globalization. I think folks will actually move more things.
I like that.
Yeah, move more things offshore. And reasons being, I think, just to the U.S. manufacturer getting hurt in 2025, I think that there's going to be kind of things are just going to get more expensive. And what folks do when they're those deglobalization, those decisions are made on a global scale for global things. So a lot of folks just looking at price and figuring out what makes the most sense, and that's where they invest. So I think it'll be more globalized going into 2025 and 2026 than deglobalized.
I think that's spot on. contrary. I like that.
I agree.
Because everybody's saying, hey, we just elected Trump. Nationalist policies will come into play. We're going to onshore manufacturing. We're going to onshore work. We're going to get rid of H-1Bs. We're going to hire more U.S.-born labor. But I think you're right. I think that is a battleship that's steaming ahead, and it takes a long time to turn it around. Certainly not going to happen in 2025. We're going to continue the move forward on globalization. I like that. That's contrary.
Yeah, you're more contrarian than you think, Tom.
It took effort, guys. I had to sit down with pen and pad on that one. But just to the H-1B, I think if they don't do that properly, folks just open up more subsidiaries globally. It is a bit of arbitrage for like smart folks at lesser rates through those programs generally. And if they can't get that, they'll say, well, you know what? They're just going to double down in India then, as opposed to having them in San Francisco. So,
right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So that was our contrarian belief. Now we have most anticipated trend. I didn't go first, so I'm going to step in the front of the line on this one. Probably could read me from a mile away.
Don't take mine.
AI will become your partner in crime in 2025. I think that is going to be true. I don't think necessarily. I think it'll become more incorporated into products. So when I say AI, it's that agent side of things. Like your software will do more for you, and it will connect more dots than it has historically. It doesn't need to be necessarily everyone being on ChatGPT, even though that should also go up, unless Sam Altman, runs out of money. But at least for Google, one of those guys will be probably front and center from the search perspective. From AI, again, your search is providing actual usable outcomes. And then the Salesforce things like you're talking, Paul, those guys, they're investing heavily in these agents. So when folks put things in the system, it does a lot more for them, therefore increasing productivity. So I expect that to be the big trend that will continue. Totally non-contrarian on that one, but for 2025.
I almost made that my contrarian belief was that AI was still going to be a toy.
My trend is contrarian.
I was going to say still going to be be a toy. No agents, no significant agents are going to change anyone's lives. But I decided, I got to be.
I don't want to push that hard against. I know exactly what Tom is going to say.
I like your new definition of AI though, Tom. Just how it goes farther for you. It does more for you. It's not necessarily that like smartness, but it's actually providing you the what you're actually looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what I think. And Paul, what are you thinking? 2025, most anticipated trend.
Yeah. So I kind of back to my MicroStrategy. I just said I'm looking forward to more companies and central banks starting to use Bitcoin and Bitcoin-backed bonds as treasury assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that before, Paul. Mm-hmm. The humble little company here, Summit Procurement's thinking about keeping our cash reserves, a significant portion of them in Bitcoin denominated terms. So yeah,
I like it. I love it.
Yeah, we'll have a separate conversation, I think.
Exactly. I feel like we could.
Got to get my kids to school soon. So, Alan, trend 2025, most anticipated. What you got?
I had a few, and as I'm looking across them here, I think I'm going to go with this one. With the new regime in town in 2025, I'm looking forward to continued economic and business growth with a much more realistic political outlook. So think deregulation. We're going to be pushing a lot of deregulation, and with that will come things like the nuclear industry and other industries unshackled, unfettered, and really have the ability to do some innovation, some growth. So it feels like it's kind of like 1980 all over again.
Yeah. Long-term, economically, probably what we need, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if they can unlock those policies in 2025, that'll make 26, 7, and 8 much more highlights for the administration.
Yep.
Yeah, and
it feels like
I couldn't agree more. I think long-term and, end of 2025 will be a big economic boom. I do just in my heart think that's where we're going. I did sound pretty doomsday at the beginning, but that's more short term, but long term.
That's 2025.
That opens it up. Yeah.
2025 is gonna be horrible, but
just the beginning, I think. We'll see how it actually shakes out. But yeah.
All right.
What
cool.
you got, Tom?
All right. So now we're going to little lighter topics, right? Because I was saying AI for the anticipated trend. So now we have 3 pieces of media maybe I'll go first on this one too. And I'd never look at like forward-looking things when it comes to media. I kind of just like I'm on the receiving end of these things, but I dug into it and I found folks that I'm interested in that have written books. So it's not necessarily procurement related. So I have two. One is Sahil Bloom. It's called The 5 Types of Wealth. I'm not so sure necessarily what his book's about, but I like the guy. I'd followed him on Twitter for a long time. Just interacted with him on there too. And he has a lot of interesting things to say. He's kind of turned into more of an influencer, but I had followed him early on where he was like thinking through stuff. So I know he has some good ideas in his back pocket. So I'm interested to buy and read 5 Types of Wealth. And then this other one, as I was clicking through, by Anne Laurie LeCunff, Tiny Experiments. She's a neuroscientist. So I get interested in that kind of space of how we think and how we function. So interested in that one as well.
It's a good topic for procurement.
Their brains working.
Yeah. You have to understand how people think and how people are reacting and acting on things. So the negotiation aspect, there's a lot of that within there. So
yeah,
those are great books, Tom.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to them. Paul, you sound ready and ready to jump into yours. What's your most anticipated book?
So I'm a big Michael Lewis fan. I have been since before the movies all came out. But I also love the movies. But baby. Oh yeah, he has a new book coming out called "Who Is Government" in March 2025. So I didn't know that was coming out until kind of forward looking, as you said, Tom. I'm usually just kind of comes to me. But now I'm pretty stoked about this new Michael Lewis book.
Yeah, and is it kind of picking up the whole DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency? Like, how does it work? Who's in there? Who's?
I'm sure decisions? That it will. Yeah, I mean, we'll find out how deep it goes. But yeah, I think it's actually gonna touch a little bit more on kind of that government side versus kind of the private sectors.
Fascinating.
Yeah. He does a great job of taking interesting things and making them great stories.
Yeah.
Like he did The Big Short, right?
He's like the Ken Burns of books.
Yeah. And Ken Burns, PBS, awesome storyteller of things otherwise I would probably find not super interesting. So yeah, Michael Lewis does a great job. Alan, what you got? What are you reading? 2025.
Well, I think I got a good one, guys. I think I got a real good one. It's not.
Are you writing a book, Alan? Are you writing a book?
It's not necessarily a blog. It's not necessarily a book, but it is written content. I can't wait to see the final unredacted JFK assassination files. They're coming out. They're going to be released sometime in the next 12 months.
Yeah,
definitely looking forward to that one as well.
Interesting. I'll let you guys tell me about it. For whatever reason, I don't like reading that stuff. I feel like if I go too down conspiracy lane, in this case, it would be like the making things less conspiratory. But that'll be interesting. Have you guys been to Dallas where all that happened?
No.
Yeah. The grassy knoll.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So all right. So that was our most anticipated blog or book. Now we have most anticipated audio /podcast. What do you guys? What you got, Alan?
All right, so it's just a couple that I like. So I thought I'd highlight the on SiriusXM. They've got the E018 Top 36 of the year. They just released it for 2024. It's always fun to listen. What were the most requested songs of 2024 any given year? So I'm looking forward to the release happening next December in 2025, and because I like to stay a little bit current and understand what are my kids listening to, what are my friends listening to, I always download Pitchfork's Top 100. So that'll come out in November 2025. So I'm looking forward to both of those things.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Alan, big music buff.
I don't know about that. Just trying to stay relevant. That's all.
Probably more relevant past than I am at this point.
You're ahead of me.
Well, the funny story is my kids laugh because Taylor Swift was on 2023's Pitchfork Top 100. And I was like, I've never listened to Taylor Swift. Why don't I just play it? And then like somebody called me. So I turned the volume down. And then the next day I came in, it was still playing next morning. So in my playlist comes up, what did Alan listen to in 2023? Number one, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, for the longest period of time.
All night.
322 hours, Taylor Swift straight.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing.
All right, Paul, what do you got for this one?
So Alan, you and I are very much alike on this one. But I had some sort of podcast that's going to dive deep into unsealed documents from events over the last 60 years. So, definitely JFK was kind of the top one of mine, but I think that there will be some others that are undisclosed as well. And looking forward to, some sort of audio podcast that really dives deep into just all of the mechanics of what is unsealed and doing that kind of deep dive for people. I think that's very helpful. I love reading those documents. Like the Panama Files, love reading those. But it's
Just
any type of unsealed documents are good.
Debits and credits. Where is it going?
Yeah, exactly. Seeing how people work. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. That is cool.
For me, when I chose the most anticipated audio / podcast, announcements on tariffs 2025.
Oh,
I'm curious where they're all going to go. There's always a lot of back and forth and bantering, but these have huge financial implications for companies. How much will be taxed when stuff comes into the United States, and then also on the way out, because there will be folks pushing back as well. So I have that as my most anticipated audio of 2025.
Cool.
All right, gentlemen.
Like daily. These 3 things have been blocked. These 3 things have a 25% tariff on them. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly. Can't get this anymore. Yeah, and then a lot will ensue after those. So, yeah. So that's 2025. Now we have most anticipated video / movie. Alan, I feel like you haven't gone first in a bit.
That's good. I think this could be another colliding one. So I'm going to take I'm going to take a dark horse here. Yes, I still like Stranger Things, and Stranger Things 5 is coming.
Oh, yeah?
2025. Yep.
Oh,
that's the era I grew up in, Tommy. So that's like watching them ride their wing-ding bicycles and play Dungeons and Dragons. That was my childhood. So
I do love that
I can't
show.
get enough of it.
We stopped watching it like season 3, I think.
We got a little weird.
It did get, it got really weird. My wife had to stop watching it.
Well, that's what happened. Yeah, my wife was also.
Yeah, I continued watching it, so
I stopped.
I'll be there to watch with you, Alan. We can chat,
and we'll find out what song they bring back.
Right, exactly. Oh yeah,
that's most of it.
That was cool. Yeah,
that's cool. Great, Paul. What do you got?
So, kind of taking off of one of the ones that you guys used for your wrapping up 2024, but I think it was Tom, but a compilation of all the SpaceX Starship launches in 2025. I think they're trying to get 25 in, but we'll see what actually happens. They like to scrub flights all the time. But and then there's the potential for an actual Starship catching at some point. There's all these rumors circulating around the SpaceX forums that they've added like this notch into the Starship where they're either going to have retractable landing catching legs, or maybe they're going to be bolted on, and then you have to add extra heat shields. But I think just a compilation of all of those phenomenal engineering, everything, it's going to be epic no matter what. Even the explosions are epic. So and you got to fail in order to climb higher.
The RUDs. Yeah,
exactly.
Rapid unscheduled disassemblies.
Exactly. And I'm hoping to get out there and actually watch one up close and personal. I watch them often from Naples, from where I am. But yeah.
Yes. When you go, call me. I want to go too.
Okay.
Boca Chica, here we come, baby.
Let's
but this is actually this is a fun one. My oldest son he works for Deloitte. They're launching a satellite on top of a Falcon 9, and I've been invited out to Vandenberg out in California in March.
No way.
It's like a 2-week window, so it's so hard. You got to go on March 1st, and you might be there until the 21st or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
You
got to tell me about that one, Alan. That's awesome.
All right, so mine's much less epic. Happy Gilmore 2. You guys know that's coming out?
Right. No way. I did not know that.
All right. That's the kind of that's what I had. I was like, scroll. Happy Gilmore 2.
Happy Gilmore 2.
All right. That's probably one of my most watched movies that just play in the background.
100%.
So, yeah. I think that's going to be my most anticipated one that is actually coming out in 2025.
We'll
see it in the theater.
I'm excited about that.
That one I may. I might just wait. Maybe it's direct to Netflix. Who knows at this point? But I think it'll be a big hit. Going back to Adam Sandler's heyday.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have we're on our final one here. What do we label this one, Alan? Was it most anticipated stat? What was the?
I said most interesting financial metric.
Financial metric.
And you pick the metric and you tell where it's going to be numerically.
All right.
I think Paul should go first.
Okay.
You're up, Paul.
I'm up. Okay, so mine is how many ounces of gold, based on the paper price, so the market price, it will take to purchase one Bitcoin at the close of the day for Bitcoin on 12/31/2025. If you know me, you know I don't like to price things in dollars because the dollar is not a ruler. It's like a rubber ruler. It changes all the time, so you can't use dollars. And so my number for that is 176 ounces per one Bitcoin. It is currently around 38, I believe. Maybe a little less.
That's a big
37.
increase.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying the price of Bitcoin relative to another relatively stable monetary source, non-inflatable monetary source, less inflatable monetary source than the dollar, is going to see just tremendous increase in value.
Exactly. And to be fair, I also think gold will see a tremendous increase in value this year too.
Yeah. So it does that in addition to gold growing.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I have my estimated numbers for those two if you want them.
Is that a 5x? Is that a 5x, roughly 5x increase you're predicting?
It's more than that. I think it's around 7x.
Okay.
Or wait, no, yeah,
right.
4 or 5.
Dang.
I can't do that on the top of my head right now. But I have gold.
We don't do public math here.
Yeah, 4,350 for gold, and Bitcoin closing the year at 767,500.
US dollars.
US dollars.
Wait, what do you have in closing in 2020?
Fun.
I have
What's the?
So gold is at 4,350
Okay.
on close of the year, and Bitcoin will close the year at 767.5 thousand. 767.
An airplane.
$1,000.
767.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I my prediction is similar. It's a different metric, but similar. And I thought I was being nuts, and I went way out there, and I said I think we're going to see Bitcoin. That's all I did. Bitcoin denominated in US dollars at 250K. That
which is still
crazy to me.
That's still crazy.
7.
And to be fair, this is the end of the year.
Yep.
I think that it could go higher. And this is one of my crazy predictions. But just I think that going back to what you said, Tom or Alan, about the deregulation, Gary Gensler, the SEC has, really held back crypto and all technology crypto related firms, specifically Bitcoin, firms in the past with debanking of those founders. And that's not freedom. And so now we'll be able to actually have some more, leverage going forward. And I think that will open up a huge inflow, and there's very little supply that's on the market. There's a lot of over the counter still that people are able to buy, but I think there will be a massive influx. But like all Bitcoin cycles, there's ups and downs. It is extremely volatile. So don't buy Bitcoin based on my numbers. I've been wrong, but let's hope I'm right.
But how right have you been, Paul, over the past 5 years? Because you track this stuff, you rate your stuff. Some of the reasons you're super interesting. How right have you been?
I've been right quite a bit. I called.
Did you have 100 this year
before COVID happened?
Yeah.
My algorithm predicted some sort of credit event back in, I think it was October of 2019. And then I didn't know what was happening, but I trusted my algorithm. It's a long term. I've tested it back to 1929. I bought all the data for that, and it triggered back in October 2019. COVID happened, kept me out of the market for that. It triggered again this October, this Halloween actually, to be extra spooky, and it's currently still triggered. So it's telling me something's going to happen. And then when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin just always goes up in the long run, as long as you hold it for 4 years plus. Historically, that has been true. Doesn't mean it will always be true, but that has been true for the most part.
Awesome. Alan, was yours the 250?
Yeah, mine is Bitcoin denominated in US dollars, 250,000 US dollars per Bitcoin.
All right. Mine's going to be labor productivity will increase. So in most recent quarters, going back to say like Q1 2022, the biggest was Q3 of 2023 at 3.8%. I'll say it'll at least be 4. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I don't even know the math. It's gonna be 4 on average for the Q2, 3, 4. I'm not sure about Q1, but for Q2, 3, and 4, we'll average out to 4. I can't. It's tough even to find the data that goes into it and the math. So I'm just gonna take a shot.
You never
there.
can.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. I know because
that's a good one. I was not expecting that. I like that. Are you thinking AI primarily, or
that's what I'm thinking AI primarily. I think things will come on board for also like robotics probably in like the back half of the year where things will be kind of introduced. It might not all play out until 2026, but I'm just gonna pull it forward 2025. Q2, 3, 4. There's the government maintains it. Again, I don't know if the math changes over time, but that's non-farm business sector labor productivity % change from previous quarter at annual rate.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, above 4 for the back 3
I hope
quarters.
you're right too.
I do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's AI based and then robotic based.
Very cool.
All right.
Good.
Well, I think that was awesome. I gotta get going, gentlemen. But Alan, you want to take us out here, or you got any other words?
Thank you for joining in the reindeer games here, Paul. It's good to have you on as a guest. We look forward to having you on often in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great. On behalf of your humble hosts here at Rebuild Procurement Podcast, we are the Nebuchadnezzar of negotiations, Tommy Finn, the Director of Dark Finance, Paul Odell-Scott, and your potentate of procurement, Alan Veek, wishing this to be a productive week for you in procurement. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
See you.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebuild Procurement Podcast. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest procurement content.
Show me, and you won't hear the word rebuild.